Hello and welcome to another Touchy Gooners podcast. It's your boy Dankoogs on hosting duty today, and I'm joined by Shabs. Looking good. How you doing, my man?
I'm all good, my G. A bit tired, but we move.
Yeah, and I see German Dan as well in his fresh Cole Buxton jumper. I know that paycheck slapping nicely. How you doing, my man?
It's getting
Hey,
that
I'm
ball
good.
on.
I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. Some man are buying cold boxing jumpers, some man are buying properties. Mr. Cooks.
Hey,
Let me
relax
invest
on
in
that.
you, bro.
Relax on that. I got a turtleneck on. If anyone wants financial advice, man, don't come to me, man. Don't worry about that. So, guys, been an eventful weekend, bank holiday Monday. Listeners, I hope you all had a great Easter weekend. I was at a wedding and I saw how the other side really lived, man. That's some real rarefied stuff. Had to go up north for this wedding, and I came back to London with some extra motivation to work extra hard at work this week. So, I hope you guys are starting this week, 4-day week. Not too bad, but we had a big game on Easter Sunday. We went up to Anfield. This was, a pivotal moment in the season, and we escaped there. And I say escaped, not saying escaped lightly, sorry, because boy, I felt tense. I felt under duress, and I think the team did as well. Coming out of that game, and we left with a 2-2 draw. So we're here today to talk all about that and answer your questions as well. So let's get straight into it, right? Because I think Arsenal fans were in their conspiracy theory bag last week, speculating about certain things, certain comments that Arteta was making in his press conferences. Thought he was being coy. I see screenshots of, men's right arm and right leg in training pictures of people trying to speculate and say that Saliba is coming back fit. But unfortunately, he wasn't able to play, and Rob Holding started, right? I think the other point of contention was Trossard was obviously in great form so far in his, recently joining Arsenal. He's got 7 assists and 1 goal, contributing, very, very well, had a major impact since he's joined. And there was speculation as to who was going to start up top and at number 9. And we saw that, Gabby Jesus, the number 9, started up top as well. So, Shabs, I'll start with you. How are you feeling when you saw the lineup against Liverpool on Sunday?
Yeah, I think to be fair, it's what I expected with the lineup. That's our strongest 11 bar Saliba. So if I'm not mistaken, I don't think anyone else missed that. Yeah, everyone else was available in terms of our starting 11. I think that's our best lineup bar. Saliba missing, obviously the Holding inclusion. Holding, my thoughts are well documented on him. I don't think individually he had his worst game, um, but yeah, there were some issues there. There were some problems there, and I think he undermines the way that the team should be playing. The team should be playing in terms of a high line. We just can't afford to do some of those things. He lacks the composure that Saliba possesses as well. So we saw many instances where he was just booting the ball out, pumping the ball downfield. So yeah, and there are some issues that will maybe come into a little bit with Holding and just the impact of Holding coming into it. But with Trossard, I kind of understand it. I think Jesus is our starter. We signed him in the summer to be our starter. We've seen the impact he has on our team and our attack in particular. Trossard has done very well when he's come in. He's been a shrewd signing and a very capable and accomplished player. When he does come in, we've seen what he's given us in terms of his output of assists. But yeah, I really see the strongest attacking combination at the moment as Jesus, Martinelli, and Saka. So I didn't expect Trossard to start. It was acknowledged that Trossard has got a hat-trick at Anfield already, and I think that's where a lot of the talk came from. He's already been to this ground and ground out a good result and, got amongst the goals so far this season. He might be able to replicate that, but yeah, my expectation is as what happened on the field in terms of starting lineup.
Yeah, Dan, anything you want to add on the lineup?
I think for me, that was the expected lineup. To be honest, I wouldn't have liked if Trossard started. Because I think as you guys have mentioned and we've mentioned on pods before that Jesus just occupies defenders differently to Trossard, and I think he's a more physical threat. So yeah, I have no complaints about the lineup. I think there were some considerations that we had in the group chat. I think Ant was one of the people that said he'd rather see Tierney right back than holding centre back, and I don't know if I want to experiment too much, but just if we're going into that performance and individual performances, then I think holding was one of the big reasons why we lost control of that game. I think these games are won and lost on very fine margins, of course, and also on being able to smell if there's an opening. And I think one opening that they definitely smelt very early on in the first half was that if we're pressing this guy, his headers are not well directed. They're going up in the air. We can win the second ball off the headers. His passes are either completely, aimless into the channel. He plays a lot of long balls that they're not really going to anyone. And if they're going to someone, they're not going to someone's feet to do stuff with it. They're going for someone to contest for the ball. So you can play off, if we press him, he's going to play it long. We can then win that ball that he's played and we get the ball back. So it's just too many avenues, too many ways of being able to get possession back of holding, even if he doesn't directly misplace the pass. Even if his direct action is not 100% poor, there's just too many avenues for you as a team to kind of be able to get the ball or put other players from the Arsenal team under pressure when they receive passes off him. So I think that dynamic on the right hand side suffered a bit. And as I said, we will talk about individual performances, but I think Odegaard and Ben White also had poor games. And now, you guys know me, I'm not really one to make too much excuses for players. Players can have poor games, players can have average games, good games, excellent games. That stuff happens all the time, but I think there's always circumstances that kind of influence those performances. And one of them was definitely Holding playing on that side. Ben White didn't get up as much. Odegaard didn't receive the ball as much from that side. I think if you look at the amount of touches and the amount of passes he completed was low compared to what he usually does for us. Saka didn't get the ball much on that side as well, which was I think down to Ben White and Holding predominantly, and they couldn't find Odegaard often. And I think the left hand side was definitely more potent in that positive spell that we had. So. And then the other spells in the game, I thought it was a bit disjointed. So yeah. You on mute, Cougs?
Yeah. I think it is an interesting topic, Rob Holding, and how he influenced our play, because I do feel that Liverpool were sort of happy for him to have the ball in the early spells in that first half. And I think one of the things that I do notice is that it's not an unusual occurrence. I think the same thing happens when we've seen him in the Europa League, when we've seen him in games previously, is that teams are pretty happy for him to have the ball. That when Saliba plays, I think we're able to get a much cooler assertion of control in the game. And I think we can almost split this game into two parts, right? And I think that's how I would like to do it for the rest of this pod, right? So I think we started the game incredibly well. I think we were very sharp. I think Liverpool probably came into this game a bit low on confidence. We're obviously high on confidence. Last 7 games, we know that we need a fast start. We had a fast start at the Emirates, and they did get back into the game a couple of times at the Emirates. But I think towards the last 30 minutes, we sort of showed them who's boss really before we got our third goal. And I think that was probably in a few of these players' minds when we came into this game, both on our team and theirs, right? And I think we started well. The goal with Martinelli, I think, the very first play, right, from kickoff, Martinelli, we get him into a 1v1 position with Trent. He cooks Trent, sizzles him, and almost gets us a goal, right? And I think that set the tone very, very early on in the match. We did play well to get our goal. think it's a good finish as well from Martinelli. And then we're in behind Trent again on that left-hand side. I think it's a nice pass from Xhaka in behind him. Konate's forced that wide. Van Dijk's in no man's land. And we had a nice cross to from Martinelli, pinpoint on Gabriel Jesus' head. And I think he's probably a better finisher in the air than he is with the ball at his feet, because I was fully confident that he was going to dispatch that. And then we found ourselves 2-0 up, right? So, I guess, firstly, what's going through your head after goal number 1 and then goal number 2? And then how are you feeling, as we were, I think we carried on to play scoring the second goal. Welcome, Ant, as well. I'll put you on mute 1 sec. There you go. But Dan, I'll ask you the question.
Okay. On the first goal, obviously, I think the first goal was endorphins, man. It was just pure endorphins. I can't lie. That Sunday was peak for me. I had a couple things planned. When you plan your day, and you're not really realizing the magnitude of the game. Like I had brunch planned before the game, and I had like drinks planned after the game, and I woke up like 10 a.m. and I was like, I can't do either, man. I need to watch this game by myself at home. So I had to call things off, but just at home, dark room, TV on, watching the game, man. And that first goal, man, I can't lie, it hit like crack, man. That first goal. I was screaming. I was enjoying it. And it gave me a lot of confidence thinking that we can manage the game. First of all, we started really well. We scored that goal. And when we go up, we usually tend to, manage the game really well. And as you referenced before, you've referenced the Spurs away performance. I felt like the game was shaping up like that. And then what I really liked is when we scored that goal, we were so measured and calm in our passing. I felt like we didn't rush the situations. I felt like it was really by instruction that we are not going forward too fast, and that instead of doing that, we would starve Liverpool off the ball and keep the crowd quiet. And that's what we really did. And then when we then decided that another opening was there, in behind Trent, Martinelli got in behind, good pass from Xhaka, goal. We were up, and I was thinking we're managing this game so well that I'm thinking this has got to be a win. This has got to be a win. 2-0 up. You're thinking this got to be a win, and I think there's a couple things that just switched in around the 35th, 40th minute that ultimately turned the game into Liverpool's favor. And I think in the end, we can definitely be happy to just get away with a point. And that point could be crucial. But the first 2 goals, I was excited, man. I was ecstatic.
Yeah, Shabs.
Yes, it's the same. It's the same. I was ready. The first goal, just like again Martinelli. There's this whole Martinelli agenda. So it was. I was coming large with the 180k a week flex, and man, who better than to get that first goal at Anfield?
Is there a Martinelli agenda?
Not internally, not amongst us, but there was some discourse at the time. Oh, you're giving him 180k, a week.
I think that was a fair. Some of it was internal in that regard. I think that was a fair question, though, given the circumstances and Arsenal's general pay structure. I don't think questioning a 21-year-old in his. Would you say this is his breakout season?
No.
You wouldn't say this is his breakout season?
No,
it is for me.
I think last season. I think we knew who he was, and last season as well. He was impactful when.
I think this is more than a breakout season now. This is
when he cut through.
I think it's his breakout season.
I think it's his breakout
from last season, from January.
This is his first consistent good season. This is his first consistent season as a starter. This is where he solidified his reputation. So now, this season, he set the benchmark for what is now the expectation from him.
For him.
I don't think last season you would have looked at Martinelli and said, he's going to get me 14 Premier League goals next season, which he may well go on to get more.
And I think people did though.
A few people were
Really?
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not going to
discredit
discredit what you're saying. I don't recall that personally.
But all I'm saying
I
is
get
that,
what you're saying.
Yeah.
I do get
and
what
I'm
you're saying.
is,
I personally would say Izzy's breakout season.
That's
And in which case, with the way Arsenal's pay structure works, putting him at the top of it, I think eyebrows can be raised. I think what really matters is, since he got that contract, is that he seems to have gone up a level.
He rose it.
Yeah. So no one. I mean, football is very temporary, isn't it? So, you know, he could have a great end to the season and a shocking season next season, and everyone will say, "Oh, I can't believe he got that money." But as it stands right now, he's looking
doing his thing,
value for every single penny.
Yeah, but as talking, I remember what side of the coin he was on.
Yeah. I made my stance very clear. I would never pretend. I thought it was too much. Too much.
Yeah, but yeah, man, he done his thing. He got the first goal. I think we deserved the first goal in terms of the timing of the first goal as well. I was happy that it was him. And then at 2-0, Jesus scored. And again, we'll talk about the starting lineup and whether Trossard should have started or whatnot. Jesus justified his selection with his performance, because I think he had a good game all round. I think he done his job in terms of the intensity up the front and pressing, and that's integral to trying to stop Liverpool playing, and that worked in the first half. But some of his touches as well, outside the goal, some of his touches were just unreal. Even when we were under the cosh, he was probably the one player before he completely, kind of like his battery went on empty. But he was probably the one player that I felt, he might be someone who could get his foot on the ball and just take the sting out of it a little bit for us and draw a foul or something like that. But yeah, he just he's still short of match fitness. But when he got that goal, 2-0, I was ready, man. I was ready. It was smoky settings, and I was just holding back because I was filming the school. I was ready to post. I was holding back, and I just said, let me just relax. And then obviously the game turns at around the 40-minute mark, and we all kind of know the outcome.
Yeah, fair play, man. Fair play, and welcome, Dr. Lee. We've got full house on the pod today for once, man. So yeah, let's talk about the game turning a little bit, right? Because I think we're all on different sides of the spectrum here as to what we think really changed the game. Because I think Neville and Carragher on the TV were sort of pushing Xhaka and Trent being the sort of catalyst.
Definitely let a torch paper
for the game turning, right? I don't think I agree. I don't think I agree with that because the reason why I don't agree is that, like, when you like go back rewatch the match, I think Liverpool had a couple of openings before they got their goal. I think the first one being Ben White sort of empty his spot a bit too early. Robertson gets that run in behind, flashes it across goal.
Yeah, he should have scored.
Right? Should have scored. I think there's another one where it's like a cutback, also originating from that left-hand side, where I think Ben White, again, isn't really quite in the same position. Or it might be from the holding giveaway even, actually. I think it's from the holding giveaway.
When he tried that little reverse pass.
And then
who he thinks he is to be trying reverse passes,
Tried the reverse pass, and I think it ends up with Robertson and not Henderson hitting one over the bar, right? And then obviously you get an incident with Xhaka, far left-hand corner, they get a free kick, and then they restart play again. And for me, I think Ben White again is very quick to empty his hole, leaves Holding sort of 1v1, giving me flashback to that Aston Villa match where Jack Grealish and McGinn were sort of toying with him. He doesn't like that, doing Street Fighter stance. Yeah, doing a Street Fighter stance. And then the ball gets played in. Henderson hits a jammy jammy shot into Salah's path, and it's a goal, right? And for me, I think it's that incident that, and it could have happened, you know, before from those other previous two incidents, but it just happened just after the Xhaka and Trent thing, and then obviously a goal before halftime is going to get Anfield up. You know, it's going to get the crowd going. It's going to get the crowd jumping. And I felt that, you know, it was just some sloppy moments earlier in the half that could have also led to that. And it just so happened that it was after the Xhaka incident. You know, and then a goal, like you see, if we're at Ellen Road or something like that, we're 2-0 up. We can see just before half time, you know, Leeds are going to come out like hot and firing. You go to Old Trafford, go St James's Park, it's going to be the same reaction. And I think, you know, goals change games. And I think that's what happened there. We conceded at the wrong time. Because if we go in at 2-0, I don't think that Xhaka Trent thing is enough to really, like, you know, get Liverpool. I think the game would have been dead.
You're probably right. But the thing about football is that each individual incident leads to the following incident, right? And no matter what you do, you can't get away from that. So, you know, a player could be 1-on-1 and he could have squared it, but he decides to shoot. It's a goal kick. And from that goal kick, you know, they happen to get possession and score a goal. Now, they didn't score because he missed, but him missing is what's led to that goal ultimately. So I don't think we can dispute or deny that the Xhaka Trent incident fired up the crowd a bit. Obviously, we can't say, you know, this would have happened if that hadn't happened, and this wouldn't have happened if it did happen. But what we do know is the crowd got behind their team a bit more, and they happened to score pretty much immediately after. That might be coincidence. The two might be linked. We don't know, but we do know that the Anfield crowd plays a major part in how Liverpool play. So the crowd are fired up now. Now they've got a goal. It's 2-1, and there's a real belief. I think, personally, from then, I think we went into our shell way too much. The same fear that I'm sure we all felt as fans, it looked like the players felt it as well. We became nervous, we retreated, and we played like, okay, shit, I hope they don't get another goal, rather than we need to get another goal. You know? So, like I said, we can't categorically state that the Xhaka incident is the reason, but the timeline of events gives credence to the theory. I mean, look, for me, I always believed that game would be a draw, and I will always be content with a draw at Anfield. I personally don't buy into the theory, because you was 2-0 up, you must ultimately win a football match. I think that's kind of stupid, because ultimately the best thing about being 2-0 up is that you have to have a monumental fuck up to lose. Yeah. So, you know, getting a draw at Anfield is always a good result. But the fact that you've given yourself a 2-goal cushion means that you now have more margin for error. You know, the same people that are saying, oh, well, you know, you were 2-0 up. So you're telling me that if Gabriel Jesus doesn't score that goal and we lose 2-1, nobody speaks about the fact that we was 1-0 up after 8 minutes. It's neither here nor there. Nobody cares about that. So I don't quite understand how another goal and not losing is worse than not getting that goal and losing. I find it kind of strange. So
it's the science of the scoreline, though. I think I would say 2-0 is the most dangerous scoreline in football.
Everyone knows that. Everyone knows that.
You're not away. The game is still open.
Because that third goal, it gives you the fear that you really need to protect something, and it gives them the unadulterated belief that they can get level. It is the worst scoreline. By far and away. Because once that third goal means so much. Yeah. It means so much. So, yeah, I have no issue with a 2-2 draw at Anfield. I think it's crazy that some people do. And again, with the Xhaka thing, two things can be true. I think you can point to his lack of professionalism in that moment. Even though he should have got the free kick, it was a foul by Konate.
He was fouled, exactly.
Yeah, he was 100% fouled. I just think in the circumstances that we're in and titles, the margins for error are so small that you have to maintain a cool head throughout. You can't afford those little tiny lapses and losses, because everything means too much. When you're going for the top 4, you can lose that game and you can lose your next game, and you've still got. We don't have that luxury with what we're going for now. So, you know,
it has to be perfect.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. You just have to be a bit more streetwise. If that's a Saka or a Martinelli or whatever, you can maybe, you know, pin it to inexperience and youth. But I know Xhaka plays on the edge, but you've been around the block long enough now, man. And he also knows as well, he doesn't have the luxury that other players have of being able to get away with things.
Yeah.
You know?
And
if he does the tackle Canate does, it's a foul. If he does what Trent done to him, he gets a red card.
He gets sent off.
There's no two ways about it.
Yeah. And I agree entirely. I agree entirely with Ant. Like my stance is the same, really, because it was not only the tide turned. You can argue how much of an impact that had or whatever, but it's the fact that he's then gets a yellow card for it, for something that I didn't feel he needed to. I didn't feel like he needed to put himself in a situation where he's now hamstrung, because then that hamstrung the team. And actually, what we needed in the second half, he couldn't then buy himself another foul. He couldn't assert himself in the way that he usually does. You know what I mean? It is a double standard for Xhaka. But I just feel he's been around the block for so long, he should know better. You know, and that was it for me. I watched the second half and I thought we need something that's a bit different. And really, even if we get into it, I was surprised that Arteta left him on the pitch and took Ødegaard off when he did later make the subs, because I thought playing with Xhaka on the yellow in a game of that intensity, which is so open, is a liability for me. And that added to my discomfort watching the game, because I thought, you know, he could get booked for anything here, you know, deserved, warranted or not, and then we're fucked. You know what I mean?
The thing is, though, Shabs, it's interesting that you say that, because like I thought Ødegaard had to come off. Personally, I thought he did not have a good game.
I don't think he had a good game, but I only mean given the circumstances.
But then one thing I would say is, you know, in Xhaka's he's been here 7 years now, I think 6-7 years. He's never had a second yellow card, you know, for Arsenal. So, you know, I think his temperament when he's on a yellow, you know, he can be relied on. So, you know, I don't think I had the same fears. I get why Xhaka stayed on, because, you know, obviously you look at the way Liverpool are trying to play, physicality, aerial bombardment, lots of crosses into the box, etc. That's how they got the second goal. I think it makes sense to keep, you know, one of your better.
You need the Xhaka on the pitch, you know.
Yeah.
I don't think you've done anything.
But you say that, but I'm sure that you could find at least a few instances where he's picked up a man, or he's won a second ball, or he's been in a vital position. If he takes the Xhaka off and we end up with, I don't know, Trossard, Ødegaard, Partey, or whatever, everyone says, oh, why did you take off a more defensive-minded player when you're 2-1 up at Anfield in the last 15 minutes? I don't think he could have afforded to take Xhaka off unless we had, you know, an adequate like-for-like player to fill in the defensive areas. So Ødegaard didn't have his best game. At the same time, sometimes I'm anti certain substitutions, even if a player isn't having a good game, because players of certain qualities, they don't need to be having a good game to have a good moment, and those good moments can make all the difference. Yeah. So, I'm not quite sure. I think our attacking five at the moment, and I'm including Trossard in that, there's very little gap between the level of performance or productivity. It's always difficult which one should be on the pitch from which one shouldn't. There's an argument that maybe Saka should have come off, but if you take Saka off, all he needs is a minute to make something happen.
You know, he's your after Martinelli, he's your best outlet. You know.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Yeah. So it's a hard one. I do get the substitution, but at the same time, I do feel that, you know, Ødegaard doesn't need to be having a great game to
have a moment.
And it's not just it's not just the quality part. It's also the message that it sends. I think when we took off Odegaard for Kivior, the message was clear. Everyone was like, "Yo, we have to defend for our lives for the next." Was it the 80th minute?
Yeah, 80
I think
minutes.
we've been doing that pretty much for the.
Yeah, but you know what's interesting?
Yeah, exactly. I noticed that they didn't have a shot on target.
Yeah, I was just going to say
I think
no, they didn't have a. That's literally going to be my next point, Dan. Right? It's like I know that the thing is, it's so interesting because obviously we all know how it felt in that half, right? So I don't think we can, turn around and say, we were comfortable because no one felt comfortable, right? Watching that second half, we absolutely did not. That second half was a crashing, right? But I think this is where you want the manager per se to, maybe have a different view to the rest of us who are fans, right? And be able to look at it a bit more objectively and say, what's working, what's not working, kind of thing. Because I, for one, have never ever liked defensive subs. I hated it when Wenger used to do it. When we were defending the lead, and then you'll be like, right, now I'm bringing on the centre back, this, that, and the other. Because I always felt that it actually invited more pressure onto you. And when it was Wenger, I felt like we never lasted. We never ended up defending the lead. And I know we've done it at times with Arteta. Previous seasons, Rob Holding comes on, 3-5-2. We've looked decent, and I think at times when we've done this deep block stuff under Arteta, we have been able to see out leads and be defensively solid. But at that point in time, I felt like that was basically saying, boom, we're going to stop trying, and we're here to just defend this 1-0 lead, and we're going to try to scrape the 1-0 lead. And I feel like when he made that decision, fair enough, that decision you made, but he didn't fully commit to doing that because he left Zinchenko on and didn't bring on Tierney for me. Because I'm looking at this and saying, oh, come on, man. This cat's going mad. I'm looking at that and saying, if you're committing to doing that, Zinchenko for me can't stay on the pitch because he actually can't defend. I think he's been all right defensively this season. I think he's been all right defensively this season.
That's harsh.
No, I don't think it's harsh, man. I don't think it's harsh. I
said this on Sunday. People taking bigs at me.
I don't think it's harsh
I think that's harsh.
If you're going to commit to being 5 at the back, like a 3-5-2, is Zinchenko in that lineup for you? If that's what you're saying you're doing.
No, he's not. I agree with you in that regard. But my disagreement is where you said he can't defend. I don't think we can't.
Okay, that's hyperbolic.
That's yeah. He
you must say that shit back, man.
He's obviously a top player, and we've waxed lyrical about how good he is, what he gives us when he's on the ball, his on-ball qualities, what he does when he's in advanced positions, how integral he is to us maintaining control of the game in build-up, in the middle third, even in the final third at times. But there are defensive situations which, for me, over the course of this season, especially in the biggest games, he's looked a bit suspect. And
would you have moved him into midfield and put Tierney at left back if we had to remove Xhaka?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we haven't done it at all this season, really. We haven't moved him into midfield.
I don't think Arteta wants to do it because Zinchenko is licensed to roam in the position that he is. If he plays left back, he can go anywhere because Gabriel locks that zone down.
Yeah, but he wasn't going anywhere in that second half of that was obsolete.
He should have been stopped because we wouldn't even playing like that.
That's my thing. Like Zinchenko, once you've made that decision, Zinchenko, he's now like
he's redundant. He becomes redundant.
He's redundant. He's not fit for purpose anymore, right? Yeah. So I'm just like, that, and I'm just like, I do think Tierney's probably been too harshly treated this season.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's getting absolute trust minutes in these games. Chicken nugget minutes. No, but I think he needs a bit more respect. He needs a bit more respect from Arteta, to be honest. Because for me, I think if you're playing on the counter at Anfield, you want someone like Kieran Tierney who can go up and down. He's one of our fastest players, if not the fastest player that we have at the club. You know, and we even saw it when he did come on for the last like 3-4 minutes. He managed to give Trent some steps, as well. And he had a little weird shot at the end of it, which wasn't great. But
there isn't a doubt about him defensively. There isn't. There aren't the same doubts about him defensively.
I wouldn't go as far as that. I've seen Salah cook this man up a few times as well.
Yeah, but everyone gets. I remember it got done up by Traore.
Which is my point. In the big games, you're playing against the best forwards. Your fullbacks are going to get cooked.
Yeah, but
that's normal.
For me, it's more about, because I don't want to get into who's better or whatnot. I think we can all, whatever your thoughts are about Tierney, we can all acknowledge that change would have been helpful sooner. Yeah, whether you moved Zinchenko out of the left back and into midfield, or whether you just done a straight swap, that change would have been better sooner. And the game states, for me, when we're under the cosh, it's a very different requirement from Zinchenko as to when we're in control. And that's what, and Arteta knows that, and that's why he would have sought to have made the change. And to be fair to him, he did try to get Tierney on the pitch sooner, but for me, that sub needed to be 5 or 10 minutes earlier.
I think he should have made the triple sub, not the double substitution. For me, I think he was trying to do half and half, and I think in the end that kind of cost us, man. Personally, but
I'm not sure if I would have taken Jesus off though. That's the one sub I mean, Trossard had a nice touch for the last situation, but I think I'd have kept Jesus on. I'd have done Kivy on the Tierney sub.
Yeah, I don't think I would have taken Jesus off.
Yeah, I think he's probably something. How much fitness he has.
Only play in Prem games as well. Like I personally wouldn't have taken him off.
And I agree.
You really want to get from the pitch because Trossard can unlock doors in moments. So I get it. He was in a near enough impossible position because very difficult to win that game from where the situation we was in, and whatever he did wasn't. If we didn't win, it was going to look like the wrong decision, if that makes sense.
And I think to be fair as well, if Jesus is fully fit, he's been playing for 2-3 months beforehand. He's definitely not coming off. You know what I mean, right?
Exactly.
I was very surprised discourse about whether him or Trossard should start. Mate. I didn't understand that it became a debate.
Because I think
I thought it was crazy that some people was even considering the possibility of putting him on the bench.
Yeah, because for me, even when you got a tired Jesus, whatever, when Trossard came on, you can see the difference it made when we even went long.
Of course.
I feel like I think there's a time just before Jesus goes off, Ramsdale goes long to him. He holds off Van Dijk, controls it down, flicks it on, right? And I don't think I saw Trossard win one duel against Van Dijk.
He do the physical engaging and that. That's not him, but beating Van Dijk in the air, he was holding up like he's such a physical outlet. And even when he doesn't have the ball, doesn't give them a moment's rest.
Yeah.
Can't comfortably play. The keeper can't comfortably play. He's he really makes them have to work. And
he's harassing them. Yeah.
That he takes out of their play. It makes a big difference to the way Liverpool play. That 1 second that less that they have with him affects how the ball gets into the midfield and affects how it gets out wide. It all makes a difference.
You know another point that's on this is as well that the way the referee was reffing this game, he let a lot of physical contact and fouls go, and I felt like Trossard, being as small as he is, Konate and Van Dijk, they're fouling him, but he's not getting the fouls. Whereas Jesus can win those fouls because he's fighting them for the ball. So I just felt like that. I wouldn't say that sub was shit. I just felt like it wasn't the right sub given what Jesus can give you.
In an ideal world, I don't think he makes that sub. I think it's probably just down to how fit and the doctor's advice, to be honest. Because I know if I'm the manager, you're not taking Jesus off, especially after he scored a goal if you don't have to. Do you know what I mean?
He was the only player that was really, like I said earlier, getting his foot on the ball and trying to make it happen for us. And he was the only one that looked like any real hopes of slowing the game down for us in our favour, i.e., winning a foul, getting us a breather, getting us up to, because I'm not going to lie, it was relentless. You know, for the second half, it was relentless. It was wave after wave after wave after attack. And when you're defending, not that we were closing them down or anything, we were defending pretty deep. They pushed us back and it was all edge of the box stuff, but still we're constantly having to work to try and regain the ball, having to move and whatnot. Our players were tired, man. Like you could see, like halfway through that second half, we were finished. And it was miraculous. There was a point, probably 75 minutes on, where I said, you know what? Actually, I adjusted my expectations. I said, actually, we just need to get out alive. And it was still 2-1. But I was fully expecting and anticipating another Liverpool goal, and I said, we just need to get out alive because it's feeling like an onslaught, and too much of the ball is being played in our half, in our area, in our zones, and not enough is going the other way. So, but that said, we still had chances, half chances, but it wasn't all said and done. I don't want to be too harsh on Martinelli, but yeah. He should have found someone. He had two very good options, and to not find either in that moment, I think was
that bad from him or brilliant from Alisson?
I was going to say Alisson tracked back into goal and he ran forwards. So he did.
Alisson comes and wins that ball about 25 yards from goal. I know most keepers are sweeper keepers to a degree now, but I don't think that's the worst part in all. I just think it's brilliant goalkeeping. I'll be honest. Like Alisson has got there so quick.
I even watched it back. Alisson goes backwards and then he runs forward. It's like he's telling them play the pass and then he comes and gets it.
Yeah, he tore up that ground like a
fair play.
I think it's great keeping. I think it's a combination of all three. To be honest, I think Saka's pretty tired as well. In trying to get there after running like the whole pitch.
He looks a bit slower,
yeah. So I don't want to be too harsh on Martinelli there as well, because I do think he was probably our best player on the day, as well. So he's got a little credit in the bank for me. There are some individual performances that I do want to get onto, right? So I think Gabriel had a great game, even though I think he is culpable for the first goal a little bit. I think Ramsdale had a fantastic game.
Ramsdale was unbelievable in this game
as well. Fantastic game as well. So let's praise those two a little bit before, because I also want to touch on White and Odegaard in this game as well, because I think they had some poorer games from their standards this season. We can maybe get into why we think that is. But, Gabriel, for me, this season has been imperious, especially away from home. For me, I think in some of these difficult games, he's really stood up. Like, I think Leeds away, when we were getting smashed up, he was very good in that game when Saliba had a bit of a shaky one. We've got two more, I think, very difficult away games this season in St. James's and Etihad. And I think we're going to really need to rely on him to come up big again, if we're going to get something from those performances. And I think Ramsdale again as well, big away performances from him. Spurs away, I think he got man of the match, and Anfield on the weekend, I think he got man of the match. I don't know who got it officially, but I won't be surprised with him because of the saves that he makes at the end.
He's very deserving of it for Sunday. He's made 3 brilliant saves. And I even watched a video where it spoke about his strategy for the penalty. And I don't think it's a coincidence. Stalla and Bamford both going wide like that. I'll be honest. I don't.
Strategy.
Yeah.
I've seen that.
I don't think I've seen that.
How long he waited before he makes his move. So all these penalty takers now, they're waiting for the keeper to make a move. But he's staring them down and he's giving them absolutely no time at all. So he ain't gone. And that's why they've had to try and steer it as far in the corner as possible. Obviously, technically, it's still bad for an elite footballer to miss the target. But I don't think it's a coincidence that 2 in a row have put them wide of the goal. I'm sure that happens with many keepers.
Yeah, do you know what I'm finding about Ramsdale, right, is that I think I'm seeing him improve like right before our eyes, if that makes sense. Like I think there were certain times last season where I think basic things he wasn't quite doing. I think last season 1v1 he was pretty terrible. For me, I thought he made it very easy for attackers to score.
Second half of last season.
Yeah, but I think, especially in the 1v1s, that like when players were running through, I had no faith in him. Like, with Alisson, 1v1, you're almost like, I'm backing Alisson here. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
And I felt the opposite with Ramsdale, and I feel this season he's been faced with a lot of 1v1s, and I think he's come out on top in quite a few of them. Whether that's big long runs in behind, or when the striker's been slipped through, and I think he's made some very very good saves. One, I think even the Salah one in this match, I think he does very very well to deny him both angles that Salah has to try to do that weird dink thing and kicks it wide. I think that's really good goalkeeping. He's out very quickly, and I think for one, and what you're saying about the penalties is quite an interesting observation, because I noticed that obviously Sporting game he didn't save any. But he went the right way on. I think he went the right way on every pen, right? So I'm just gonna hypothesize here that we're not that far away from seeing Ramsdale save. I'm just gonna put it out there, and then when he does,
he won't be our David De Gea, no.
Yeah, no, I think we're gonna see him, make that next step in his development as well, because I find it encouraging when you can see clear weaknesses in a player's game become one of their strengths. This quickly, it shows to me that he's clearly serious about his craft. He's learning, and I expect him to continue improving for me. So that's something that's very encouraging for Ramsdale. So Shabs, I'll let you in on this chat as well.
Yeah, because I think the other thing is that obviously there was the Darwin Núñez one as well. Said 3 saves. I think he had about 5 key moments in the second half of that game alone. I think the penalty. I think he played his part in the penalty. Darwin Núñez 1v1. This is their £85 million striker.
That boy ass, man.
He should tuck it. He should tuck it. Ramsdale comes out on top. The Salah save, the Konate save, like some of the stuff that he was doing was unreal. A couple saves from Salah as well. In fact, Salah should have had a couple goals, really. I think any other goalkeeper. Definitely he's made improvements from last season. What we need to remember from Ramsdale as well, this is the highest level of football that he's played at. And in terms of goalkeeping years, he's still a baby. He's got so much to learn from. What is Ramsdale now? 24, 25?
Something like that.
Yeah, 24.
Yeah, he's 24 years old. Like, he's a baby, man. He can play until he's like 37, 38. Definitely. So, but his biggest thing as well is his mentality. And he's always had a temperament. And I think we saw that. We saw that personality. We saw that character on Sunday. Definitely. I'm under no illusions about how difficult a place it is to go and perform at Anfield. He was making them saves in front of the cop end as well. They would have been abusing him. We heard, if you was watching it on Sky, you heard the abuse. You heard the swearing. The Sky commentators had to apologize enough times. Imagine the abuse that they was giving Ramsdale. You know what I mean? Them Scousers. So temperament is making them big saves.
We only heard the abuse because obviously they turn the mics up when they're singing "You Never Walk Alone," to make it sound like it's popping off like that. They forgot to turn them back down.
That's something you picked up from the documentary, yeah. But man, Ramsdale. I don't want to overanalyze it either, because he's young in terms of goalkeeping years, and that I think we're still going to see levels of improvement and development from him still. So and we're going to see blips as well. We're going to see blips like we've seen with everyone. The very best, we've seen them have dips in form and poor periods and whatnot. So he'll get better with age.
This is why I think it's important to rate and analyze and review what you actually see, rather than kind of thinking, oh yeah, this guy's shot stopping is fun. Shot stopping was not fun second half of last season, and many of us in the group have said it, and we've criticized it, and there were enough instances where it was just not adequate. But this season, it has been good, and there's actually, I think, when probably coming back from the World Cup, I think he's even gone up another level. I think he was very consistent before the World Cup, and he's been consistent throughout the season. And I think one of the criticisms last season, I definitely had with him, I felt like he was not consistent. I felt like he can go through 5 very good games, and then the next 2 or 3, one shot, one goal kind of thing. Whereas I don't think it is like that. He seems super solid. He seems very switched on, and he seems to be doing the basics as well as the more difficult parts of goalkeeping really well. So I think, for me, he was definitely our man of the match. Without him, we would have not left with any points, I think.
Yeah, and then I know we have quite a few listeners' questions as well, so I just want to go through these next couple of points quite quickly. But Ødegaard, for me, I thought he had a very poor game by his standards. He just didn't really seem to get into it at all, and I'm not too sure why that was the case. I think obviously we've spoken about Holding being on that side, not being ideal. But I don't think that's enough of an excuse for me personally, because I think when Ødegaard has a quiet game, it makes it very difficult for Saka to get into the game, because that's the pass and the release out to him that we see. And then I think Ben White, I thought he started the game quite well, and the moment he got carded, I thought his game just completely fell off a cliff. I think in possession he was very loose with it. And you didn't really see him get up the pitch at all again, really, after he got his yellow card. And I think that sort of just hamstrung our whole right side for this match, And I think that that sort of right hand side, I can see how Holding is a factor, but for me, it didn't work at all in this match. It didn't work at all, and they didn't get into the game.
I just want to say, because I agree with your points, but I think how I would categorize it and coin it really is that with Ødegaard in particular, I don't think he had a bad game. I think Ødegaard was integral in terms of closing Liverpool down. He was very, very aggressive in the press in the first half an hour, which
Drinkwater.
Say it again.
You're making it sound like Danny Drinkwater. What are you talking about?
No, man, because at the end of the day, we can see that the pressure that we put Liverpool under, how we pinned them in the first half year, that was key to us being able to establish a foothold in the game and get ahead. Yeah, okay. I'm looking at Ødegaard, and what I want from him in terms of the qualities is what he can produce on the ball. And he's our captain, and he's our primary creator. And I hear it from that perspective, and I agree with the comments that you've made, Cougs. But I think everyone's categorizing him as the same and saying he had a bad game. And I think actually what he done in terms of the shift that he put in, especially in the first half an hour, was integral. And we were up in that period of time. So when we were playing well, I think it was quite key to us playing well. In the second half, we were trash. We didn't get on the ball. We didn't do anything. Maybe that's where I'd hope that he could get involved in the game a little bit, get the ball under, slow things down for it. And that's what I was calling for, to be fair. But I haven't categorized him all in all as having a bad game. I don't think he was as bad as Holding. I don't think he was as bad as Ben White. I don't think he was as bad as some of the other players, really. I do.
Two things to be true, though, right?
Yeah.
So he can be integral to the first 35, 40 minutes. But, one thing we can all definitely say, even if Ødegaard does have a bad game with the ball, he doesn't shy away and he puts in a shift. Yeah. So I don't think anyone doubts his commitment or work rate. And anyone that's ever played football, those are the basics that everyone will tell you should always do. Even if you don't have the best game, the least you can do is work hard. So, yeah, he can get credit for that. However, I don't think that we need to... He's a good enough player that we need to shy away from saying, you know,
Yeah.
it wasn't his best game. That's
we should call it,
fine.
we should call it like it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd have more of a problem if he. Like, I can understand you having a bad game. Anyone can have a bad game at any given moment. If he didn't try and he didn't work hard and he didn't do the things that you just praised him for, then, you know, that's a choice. That's a mentality thing. But he done all those things and he had a bad game, and that's fine. Like, you're gonna have them from time to time. I don't think that too much needs to be made of it. The Holding thing, Rob Holding is Rob Holding. I mean,
what does that mean, bro?
it means
he's shit,
got no business at this level. there shouldn't be a circumstance in which we're relying on him in any capacity. Like,
facts.
I know the vibe is good with the fans and the players and all that now, but I'm sorry, that man shouldn't be putting on an Arsenal shirt. He just shouldn't. He never should have. And 6-7 years down the line, he still shouldn't be. There is nothing you're gonna learn about Rob Holding in any performance. I made myself very clear in our group chat. I wouldn't have played him in these games. I would have played Tierney right back and I would have moved White into centre back. I think that would cause way less chaos in how we have to play as a football team, because the way you have to play to protect Holding, you have to change so much. White has to kind of put the handbrake on and stick a little bit closer. Gabriel has to stick a handbrake on. Partey can't be as expansive and can't get as far forward as he maybe would like. We have to defend a little bit deeper. The midfield can't rely on the ball making its way out of the defense into midfield as calmly. You know, their forwards have that little bit extra confidence that, you know, he's going to head it back to them or he's going to make a mistake. There's so much changes he's in the team that the juice just ain't worth the squeeze. It's just not worth the risk playing him. It really, even if we played that kid,
Real Waters.
Yeah, even played him.
Right back. He probably cooked something up, bro.
Yeah, I can't lie to you.
I just think that the Holding experiment
especially in a game like Anfield, right? Because obviously we've seen the past couple of weeks, whatever you're playing, you know, Leeds and stuff at home, you can do the Holding thing, but at Anfield, where you know what's at stake, the stakes are so high. They actually have one of the top coaches as well in world football that are going to be able to, you know, put us under serious pressure. You know, and the players to do so as well. I completely agree, man, that, you know, going into these games, like, imagine, right? So, like, you know, we saw that report we got put in a group, right? That Arteta has no interest in sending the homegrown players, including Rob Holding, this, that, and the other, right? So, say, for instance, you now are in a scenario next season where what Man City, they just played, not Man City, Chelsea, they just played Madrid tonight, right? That you're going into that where the same thing happens. Saliba is out, or say this time it's Saliba and Ben White that's out instead of Saliba and Tomiyasu or whatever like that. And you are coming to Bernabeu, big Bernabeu, with Rob Holding there, with Karim Benzema, Vinny Jr., and all of these guys, right? That's not even, you know, that's not even your Gakpos and your Nunez's. You're talking big ballers now, like who are sourcing on the best of the best, and you're going there with Rob Holding. That it can't be allowed to happen.
It's worrying. I don't even want to be disrespectful about him, and it's not his fault. He's just not the level. He just isn't, like, and that's all right. You look down the league and you wonder what defense he gets into. Like, what clubs in the Premier League does Rob Holding go to and does he start for?
And on top of that, right, this guy's an English centre-back playing at Arsenal Football Club for the past, 8 seasons, and he's not even sniffed an England cap.
Ireland,
and he's not even
convert him. you know when an English not good enough for England, Ireland will always find some relative.
Yeah,
Ireland ain't even bothered. Like, Matt Catch has become Polish.
Northern
Rob
Irish passport out of nowhere, do you know?
He's gonna be playing for Montserrat or something. Like, I don't know, man.
He should be playing. He should be playing for Malta with Loon them.
Yeah, man. Gibraltar. I don't know, but man, I'm not having him. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so
So,
peak,
but if it were me, he wouldn't be playing at all. All. You know, I could look past that 87th minute, Arsenal got to the back, Rob Holding come in, head kick volley, fine. I could live with that. But outside of that and the Europa League group games and League Cup games,
I think from next season we're going to be a Champions League team, right? And you have to prepare for worst case scenarios. And I feel like Rob Holding can no longer be our worst case scenario for me. You know?
The thing with Holding is he's not an Arsenal player. Like even if you don't rate someone like Reece Nelson, if he comes in, you know, if someone like Saka isn't just someone like Martinelli isn't just, he's come through the ranks. He knows how the Arsenal way, the way Arsenal play football. You know, he's a technical footballer. Holding is none of these things, man.
What is the difference between Rob Holding and Kyle Bartley?
Hey,
I don't know, man.
Quiz question.
But yeah, it's
Joe O'Cyril. You must know Joe O'Cyril, Shabs. I'm sure.
Yeah. Come on, man.
Who say that name?
Joe O'Cyril, he was at Arsenal back in the day, brother. Last thing I heard, he was on league and that, but he was at Arsenal like Gavin Plate days and that. Like,
yeah, I don't want to be part of no. you know what I mean? I'm trying to keep it as PC as possible, but the longer that he's at our club, the more of an issue we kind of continue to feed, because we will eventually. What's the matter? You just Googled him.
Yeah, I just Googled. This is the most obscure footballer I've ever heard. This the pod title. Yeah, Joe O'Cyril fan club or something, man. Yeah,
the pod title's got to be Ireland. Haven't even pulled him up.
This guy's got 20 clubs. 20 clubs on his Wikipedia page in 10 years, bro.
Yeah,
this is crazy. I've never seen anything like this. He's got in 2015. In 2015, he played for Haringey Borough, Heybridge Swifts, Dover Athletic, and Staines Town.
Yeah, that's a real journeyman there.
Crazy.
That's a real journeyman. That's.
In 2016, he was back at Haringey Borough.
Yeah, man, that's a real journeyman.
And before that was at Arsenal.
one year apparently.
Then Rob Holding to Haringey Borough, man.
Oh yeah. No. Champions League can't see this guy again. Like we've been here. We like, come on, man. There's player cycles and all sorts. Arteta loves him. The talk is he's one of the 5 captains of the club. He's integral to the changing room and all that. I don't see none of that, man. When I see him on the pitch, I don't see none of that. None of that. Not at all, man. So we need to just bring this chapter to an end.
Let's run through these listeners' questions very quickly. Right. So Sos GN, he says, rewind back time. What do you do different at 80 minutes compared to Arteta? I think we discussed that one.
Yeah, we discussed that.
We discussed that one, so I don't need to get into that too much. Ducks on Quack 9, he says, do we need a target man type striker that's good in the air to mix up our game at times?
No, man. I'll be honest. I think Gabriel. Olivier Giroud. I watched Maro and Shamak. I'll be real. I think it up better for Arsenal than both of them did. Yeah, I'll be real. I think he even probably wins more headers than Giroud did for his first 3 years as well. So no, I don't think we need that. I hate that notion as well because it often doesn't do anything.
I wouldn't say taller player. I would say I wouldn't mind another physical threat, but Eddie does the same stuff. To be honest, if you lump the ball up to Eddie, he's fighting the centre backs.
Yeah.
And he wins a lot of the duels as well. So it's just that type of profile that you need. You know, someone that can hold that and spin away from centre backs. You know, so I think I wouldn't say a target man per se, but someone that can hold up the ball and be strong.
Yeah. I think I agree with that. I think if you were to sign another forward, I would want someone with just like electric pace. really. I think that's something that we're lacking a little bit in our front line, if we're lacking anything at all, where it's just like, you know, like you see Vinicius today, you know, the way he was able to just torch a whole defense by himself kind of thing, because I just think speed is one thing that you just always going to find very, very difficult to defend, you know. So
but here's that combination of speed and skill.
Because
to be fair, we've got the speed. We've got speed with Martinelli, with Saka. We've got speed. It's that.
I think Saka's quick like that. If I'm entirely honest with you,
Saka is I'm gonna slow you down and cook you.
And
I don't. I think I'm not saying Saka's slow, but I don't think Saka's got what you'd call electric pace.
Yeah, it's the electric pace.
He's got crazy.
Yeah,
I don't think Saka has it.
No, but my point is, Vinicius is more the speed and skill. I think it's the speed and skill that, like the speed and skill combined, that would appeal to me most in terms of like an additional player, because I do think we've got a good amount of pace up front, basically.
No, because the way I see it, right? So, like, say for instance, yesterday Jesus is coming off, but then you're bringing on
Theo Walcott,
Theo Walcott, or a speed demon to stretch games, like an extra threat, instead of a Trossard, where, like, you know, even in that break, if that guy that is, you know, breaking away from Martinelli is Saka and another, you know, sort of real sprinter type, he's getting that ball. You know, he's not trying to, you know, find Saka there, you know, whereas I feel like with Trossard, you don't necessarily, like, we saw it against Sporting as well, when he's racing away through on goal, like, a fast, and like even just like I think above average paced guy gets away from the defenders don't catch him, and he slots that. Do you know what I mean? Whereas, you know, Trossard have that.
Like a childhood hero, German, David.
Donkor.
Man.
Childhood hero.
Yeah, his shirt.
That's a good
Hey,
one,
man, I've got a lot of shirts though.
That is a good one. Okay, Still Diggs, he says Arteta said he's currently in phase 3 of a 5-phase plan. What do you think we are heading towards, and what do you think phase 3 is completed by?
Listen, I don't care about the phases. Bring me that fucking title, man.
Yeah, man, exactly. Like, what's all of this, man? Apparently we're ahead of schedule anyway. According to if you follow the phases, we weren't supposed to be competing for a league title by year 3, but here we are. So
really, anyway,
we're going to win the Champions League by year 3.
Yeah,
he's got to see it through. That's it, man.
We were supposed to win the Champions League this year or next year. We're obviously supposed to be winning the league. We're supposed to make top 4 2 seasons ago. Challenge probably last season. Win a title this season.
Not according to his phases, apparently.
His brother told Willian 2 years ago that he wants to win the Champions League within 3 years.
I feel like Arteta just keeps amending this document anyhow.
Track changes.
Bro, he's got loads of track changes in that document.
Google documents edited by Mikel. 9. I know.
Hey, you know, he logged into Word and he said, "Pick up where you left," like 2 minutes ago.
Don't kill me.
Hey.
We'll see where that plan leads us. So we asked this question, or a similar question in the group today, actually, where we said Declan Rice or Bellingham for 100 million. So Yonko Abs has said Declan Rice for 85 million or Caicedo for 85 million.
I prefer Rice out of Rice and Caicedo as it stands. But what I saw of Caicedo against Spurs the other day was very, very impressive. Because I went to Palace Brighton when they drew 1-1. Caicedo was okay. It was nothing special. I think Rice is comfortably better than Bellingham. I'll be 100% real with you. I think Rice is much better than Bellingham. I
actually think Rice is a better footballer. I do think that.
And Bellingham.
Oh yeah, I think Rice is a better footballer on the ball. I think
Bellingham.
I'd be interested to see what you guys think, because I think that left end you have. So what are you saying?
No, I'm just asking my son. Go on. You think Bellingham's better than Rice? Okay, looks.
See, I think Rice is better than Bellingham on the ball. Like Bellingham is not controlling the tempo of a game, doing all these passes. He ain't doing that. But I think the requirement for that left 8 role is not really that. It's crash the box, be strong in duels. You know what Xhaka is basically doing. He's not even getting them both in build up like crazy. So I feel like Bellingham could be a better fit, but I think Rice is the better overall player right now anyway. So I like both. I think I would go with Rice. I think in a group I vote with Bellingham for left 8, but if I'd have to invest, I'd go with Rice because he can do both positions. He could do 6, he could do 8. I think he's very coachable, and overall he's a better footballer right now. So I think he's more ready to, and I think that there will be less scrutiny on him. I think if Bellingham comes here, there's gonna be a lot of eyes on him.
Yeah,
and I think there's boss potential as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think,
even though I think he's very good, I think there's boss potential.
Yeah, Rice can even.
And what about Rice and Caicedo? Dan? Sorry.
Boy, this one I can't like. This one I can't call it because Caicedo he's got that super duper PMP. Like that PMP is off the damn charts. It don't make no sense, man. So I think Caicedo Rice for me, honestly, pause a toss up.
And Shabs?
Yeah, no, I was just saying, there's an added versatility with Rice, isn't it? Rice can also, not that we've seen him play centre back for a long time, but he can also, fill in at centre back in emergencies. But yeah, for me, I like what he can offer in 6 or the 8. Primarily, be coming in and playing in that Xhaka role. But
versatility.
Yeah, I think I'd prefer him to Bellingham, honestly speaking.
Hold on, I'm thinking now. Yeah, I think because you know what Pep is doing right now, the 4 centre backs thing. You know, Arteta has done this before, where he's played Tomiyasu left back, and he's played White right back, playing like a back 4 of just centre backs. I think.
Tony Pulis done that first. It ain't.
Oh my god.
Tony Pulis doing that at West Brom 1,000 years ago.
I'm saying,
that.
Hey, I'm saying, imagine if, Rice centre back Champions League games, or even Caicedo, because I think Caicedo got the type of physicality that, he can crash it on some of these midfielders in the Champions League.
Yeah, Caicedo, in terms of the athleticism in Arsenal's midfield, it will be mad. There's not already, when you think about what we're doing already, if you swap out Xhaka for Caicedo, it's actually crazy. Like in terms of duels, athleticism, mobility, it's nuts. I think we could match practically anyone. Partey just needs to be fit and on job. Caicedo in there, and Odegaard could just move around and do his thing. We'd crash it on virtually.
Caicedo is a freak. I think Plasdom often get the better of him. I think Rice is very strong in duels as well. He's very, very. I just feel like, Caicedo, you need. I think both of them.
The difference, the thing, and I'm not saying Deckers can't do it. I like Declan Rice. I've already just called him, but I think what I like from Caicedo that I've seen, I like his ball progression and the way that he carries the ball better. I prefer it to Rice. It might be about the systems and the ways that the teams play, and that we see Caicedo do that more than Rice needs to do it or is expected to, both for England and for West Ham. Mind you, carries it a fair bit for West Ham, but I like it from what I see from Caicedo. I prefer it there, really. But I'm taking Rice, man. I've called Rice. I'm sticking by Rice.
Who are you taking, Cooks?
I think if I just had to pick one, I'll probably go Caicedo for me. I can't really decide. I can't really decide because I think Rice, on top of the football aspects, I do think he brings quite a lot in terms of some of the soft factors. I think he's a big leader. I think the fact that he's English is actually a big boost to sort of how Arsenal are perceived in the media, maybe getting certain decisions, etc. in games. getting people into the England squad, it being an appealing club for young players, etc., etc. So, you know, I think Rice actually comes with, you know, a whole host of benefits us signing him because of how he's viewed in the media as well. So, you know, that actually makes me lean more towards Rice now that I'm sort of talking this out. But I'll be happy, to be honest, I'll be happy with either of them, you know. And if I'm deadly serious, I think we need to blow the bag and get both. I can't lie to you. I think we need to blow the bag and get both, right? Because I'm just thinking that in the game on Sunday, if that's Caicedo on the bench instead of Jorginho, right? There's no way he's not coming on the pitch. You know, I don't think that was a match for Jorginho, but I think Caicedo, if he's on the bench, he's 100% coming onto the pitch and he's helping us, you know, sort of helping Partey out. You know, if Ødegaard or even Rice, you know, either of them, they're coming on, they're going to help deal with that physicality. And if you're playing both of them together, boy, I'm seeing us blam teams. Like, you know, when we used to have Gilberto and Vieira in the middle, you could fist up everyone. It was like the whole of Arsenal's team that season was like over 6 foot. Everyone was fast. Everyone was strong. You couldn't bully Arsenal, and they had a technical quality. And I think any move back to that that way of playing football, where you had technicians all over the park, but you also had big physical guys. Yeah, I'm all for it. So yeah, if I had to pick, I actually think I'd pick Rice for some of those other off-field reasons, because I do think it's close to them physicality-wise. I think Caicedo's probably better technically than Rice, and I think he probably requires less coaching in terms of you know, his on-the-ball work and being brave and that kind of thing. So I think he's probably slightly ahead as a footballer, but yeah, with Rice, I think there's some added benefits there. So yeah, so there's a few more questions here. Kieran is getting quite late, so don't want to get blamed by my wife, so I'm going to try and keep this quick. Says Kieran 91, he says, against City at home and Sunday we started well, but in the second half invite pressure. What needs to change to stop that from happening at the Etihad?
I think it's different games at the Etihad. I think the Liverpool game, and I go back to the refereeing. I think the way the ref the game, he allowed a lot of tougher tackles, more physical contact, and that it suited Liverpool more than it did us, especially in that period. And I think it depends, one, on the referee, how you refs that game, because a lot of these contacts could be fouls in our favour, I think. And, you know, momentum swings quite quickly when these things happen, and it breaks up the momentum of the team. But if the ref just lets it run, it doesn't. So I think what needs to happen differently at the Etihad is, one, we need to be able to be to at least get 2 periods when we are really dominant. We only had 1 period in this game. Even though it was for, you know, long duration, we would like to have, at least in both halves, be periods where we are on top. There was no period, I think, in the second half where we were on top. Because I think if we would have had that period, we probably would have scored at least a goal. So I think we need to try and manage those periods, or find those periods better. I think that, and if we then in those periods score, you put yourself in a very good position to either, you know, get a score draw, which is, I think a draw is fine for us at the Etihad, or even potentially win that game. And I think we've already been at the Etihad. I think was this our first game at Anfield in this season? We've been at the Etihad already for the FA Cup game. It wasn't. Was it League Cup, FA Cup? I don't know what it was anymore.
Yeah, FA Cup.
Okay, yeah, and it wasn't our full strength 11, but we could see that, you know, Partey was, you know, having a good time on that pitch. He generally plays quite well against Rodri, and I feel like that is a game that suits us a bit better. It's a bit more technical rather than physical, and it's about playing football fast and trying to work out and finding openings. So I felt like the Liverpool game ended up becoming a passion affair, and so I think a more technical game will suit us better. So that's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I don't necessarily agree with the need to be dominant or have dominant spells. I think when we played them at the Emirates, they weren't really dominant. You know, we restricted.
We had more
them
possession than them. We had more
very little possession, like very little possession. The lowest numbers that they've had under Pep Guardiola. they popped up and got their goals. You know, I think we need to be streetwise. We need to be smart. We need to play with intensity. I think what German Dan said would definitely help. Definitely help us if we go there and we can control things. It makes for a lot more comfortable viewing. But ultimately, we just need to be clinical and we need to be decisive. I think the refereeing is a big factor, though. Definitely, I think what pissed me off, and we didn't really get into it too much today, but the refereeing in the Liverpool game really did annoy me. I think Ben White, that first, that very first tackle, he gets a yellow card. Not disputing that is a yellow, fair enough is a yellow, but minutes later, a really bad challenge on, I think it was Saka, nothing. You know what I mean? So
Robertson twice on Saka.
Robertson had numerous, Fabinho had numerous, no yellows, you know. So
he was doing up WWE.
Yeah, Ben White deserved the
Ben
yellow
White's got
card.
to play.
Arte, Fabinho, and Robertson should definitely have had yellow cards.
Yeah. So if Ben White's got to play 85 minutes on the yellow, you see what I'm saying? Like, it's bullshit. Very similar happened when we played City as well. Bernardo Silva, I think Saka got carded on the first exchange with him. Bernardo Silva done 4 or 5 repeat fouls, systematic fouling. Ref didn't card him until much later in the game. You know what I mean? If he gets carded in the first 5 or 10 minutes of the game, it's a different entity. Now he's got to deal with Saka running at him, Ben White running at him. You know what I mean? So it's about consistency of the decisions being applied by the referee for me. So yeah, these are factors that will help us definitely. But ultimately, we just need to be clinical in front of goal, because I'm expecting Haaland to play, and yeah, man, he's not going to play about his goals. He's going to punish us. The KDB will punish us if he gets a sniff. Grealish looks like, he's finally, found form at City. Alvarez played the other day. He's
all that Grealish stuff. I'm sorry. All that Grealish stuff is cute, man. This guy got like 4 goals this season, man. Talking about
it's true. It's true. He has.
Crazy,
it is
man.
cute. It is cute, but he looks like he's clicking. You know what I mean?
He looks good now.
So that's my point. Like his output, it's not been good enough. He costs £100 million, but my point really is just that he looks like he's clicking. So, he's a player that I think he can punish us. So we just need to be clinical, just be about our goals. We can't have Jesus missing chances. Martinelli's got to take chances like he has been doing. Saka's got to take chances that come to him. Ødegaard's got to be on job. The rest will take care of itself.
Yeah, I agree. I think the big games, when it comes down to it, like you've seen, we could talk about being dominant, etc. But you look at these Man United teams that have taken points at the Etihad, Tottenham, etc. That have done it frequently in recent years. It's not necessarily about control when you play Man City. It's about being efficient in your in both boxes. I think personally, right, that we've seen the Pochettino side, Mourinho side, Conte sides. You're efficient in both boxes, and you get the points at Man City. And I think that the difference is with this Man City team is they actually give you chances. They give you more chances than they used to give you, because they used to keep all of the ball. And I think at the Emirates game, we probably created way more openings than they did to actually score. That first half, if not for that Tommy error, I don't think Ramsdale was a very busy keeper. Second half, in the first half, Eddie misses the header. We got a penalty. Second half, we had more chances where Eddie should probably leave with a goal. And we weren't efficient. We didn't take our chances, and they took theirs with, I think, 34% possession. So they didn't have control in that game either. So I'm not too focused on control in that game. I think it will help because obviously, if you have the ball, they can't score. But it's about efficiency in both boxes for me. And I think, we started this Liverpool game taking our chances. The 2 that came, we took them. We were 2-0 up. I personally don't think Man City are the same as Liverpool in the sense that they can, build and build and build that momentum. I think this season, when they're struggling to score, they're not necessarily as inevitable as they've been in previous seasons. So if we are able to take the lead, I do sort of have more faith that we'll be able to lead with the points than I did against Liverpool. So I think that's one thing that we need to focus on instead, is just being taking our chances when they can't, being a bit efficient. So Anton AFC, he says, with Trossard, Martinelli, and Jesus gelling together so well. Is there a way back into the team for Eddie?
What, that Ant tweeting
into
the
lot of games.
Was that Ant tweeting into the pod asking questions?
Nah.
I said, big man, you just come on there.
I'll ask him how much he wants for that Twitter name, though. I'll tell you.
It's a good one.
So
yeah, what do you guys think? What do you guys think? Is there a way for Eddie to get back in the team, basically?
To start?
Well,
yeah.
I don't know. However you look at it.
Yeah, I'll be fine.
Yeah, so if
tough to start, but he definitely can play still a role.
Yeah,
I agree.
You need to get back off. You need to get back into the swing of things and start playing. He can definitely give us something. Pause.
Yeah, and to be honest, I think even though I like the false nine stuff, when we're playing sort of counter-attacking football, need someone to carry up the ball up the pitch, etc., I would have probably preferred an Eddie sub than a Trossard sub in that game state on Sunday.
100%. If Eddie comes on if Jesus is blowing after 75 minutes at the Etihad, I'm subbing Eddie and not Trossard on for him.
Yeah, agreed. So Count Dracula, he says, I trust Jesus and Nketiah to score their heads rather than their feet. Do you think we should try to implement more crossing into our attack and play?
Boy, tell that to attack, because he don't want people. It doesn't seem to want the team to be swinging it in like that. He likes to work the overlap, the underlap, then cutting it back.
I think across is a weapon, right? Like, we've seen us score headers this season. As long as the cross is good, I don't mind. Like Brentford, Xhaka had that one from the edge of the box into Jesus. He done a similar one in the last game. Was it against Leeds? I think. It's as long as you pick. United. I think Xhaka crosses to Eddie to score at the back post as well. I don't mind the cross. I don't think anyone wants them Trent just spam balls in the box, right? I think because.
Do you know what it is? I think the longer crosses, you have to hit them early, and in order to find a runner, like the Martinelli one, he cuts back inside. There's only two people in the box with Jesus, I think, and he crosses instantly. But a lot of times we're facing teams who are trying to defend against us, so just aimlessly crossing doesn't make much sense for us. We're trying to work a proper opening, and we also, one of the big things is we're trying to flood the box. So if you're getting into a crossing position, only one man is in the cross and in the box. You're trying to delay the play for more people to arrive, and then have more options. So that's basically how we play.
Plus, I think as well against deep blocks, crossing is not necessarily the best tactic with the height that we have.
It's not. This is it. You got to think about the way that we play football and the way that we want to play football, and that. We try to be very intentional, very deliberate and precise, especially when we get into the final third. Are we trying to now go against that for the sake of crosses?
Do you remember when we were spamming crosses though?
It's horrible, man.
It wasn't that long ago. How far we've come.
No, it was horrible.
100%. Baitface Nate, this is the last two questions here. He says, Baitface Nate, he says, what changes, if any, would you make to the starting 11 over the next two games? Where else would you allocate minutes to the other members of the squad, if at all?
Bring me back Saliba, man. That's all I'm asking for. The next two games, I need Saliba.
Yeah, my demand would be no Rob Holding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't lie to you, and I'm trying to see that as well. Just let me see it.
Even if, because I think it's say for instance, we're 2-3-0 up, maybe just chuck Ben White centre back, test it out, man. Because I get why you might not want to do it from the start, but let's see if we have another viable option there. Because boy, holding versus Haaland is frightening me.
It's scary. We've seen some glimpses already. We don't want, bro. He was holding on to Haaland Trev for dear life.
Yeah, it was very scary. And Ribsilic, last question. He says, "Who do you think will finish as our top scorer this season?"
As our top scorer, it's Martinelli, man.
Martinelli.
Yeah,
Martinelli.
I think people have got to do a lot to pass.
Got to go on a little run, though. I really do.
Say it again.
I think Jesus is going on a little run, though.
I think Jesus might have to do too much to pass Martinelli right now, though.
Yeah, he won't catch him, but I'm just saying his number, he'll finish with an acceptable number, and he will definitely. He's got 3 in his last 2. He will definitely do way better than the 5 he got in his first 13.
Yeah.
In this.
What's an acceptable number, like for 14, 15 for the season in the league?
So I would say as long as he manages, I would say that's acceptable.
I didn't hear the number.
I think you dropped out.
Yeah, I would say as long as he manages 1 and 2 in the Premier League. I don't care about Europa League and all of those stuff. I don't know how many games he played. So, for example, right now he's played 18. He's got 9. So yeah, he's gonna play what? I think he'll play the next 8 games easily.
Yeah. So that's 26.
I think he gets another 5 goals.
Yeah.
If he can get another 5 goals.
If he get 14, my bet's on him hitting 15.
That's why I said what's acceptable, 14. But yeah, okay.
Yeah, I would say I wouldn't be angry at 14 in 26.
If he gets to 14, he's scoring 6 in his last 8. I think that's putting us in a very good, fantastic position to win the league. To be honest,
yeah, you know what's mad? You know what's mad? He's got 8 for us this season in 18. He got 8 for City last season in 28. 9 the season before in 29. 14 the season before that in 34. 7 the season before that in 29. And 13 the season before that in 29. And he got 7 in his first 10 when he came in January, 16, 17. So this has been one of his best goal scoring seasons.
His best ratios, yeah. Oh, God. Well, long may it continue, man. Long may it continue. But guys, it's been a good pod. Thank you for joining me. I think that was a thorough discussion. We've got West Ham away next weekend. I think Sunday 2 p.m. at 1. So hopefully we get the W that we need, and we'll catch you guys, listeners, after that with a post-match reaction for the patrons. And if you're not a patron, we're not going to hold that against you.
Yes, we are.
But we'll catch you next week with another Touchy Gooners episode, man. Peace.
Later, guys.
Bless you lot.